I'm gonna get into all of your offices again. I've never been there, but I know this happens. Someone comes in you've treated, and you've got all of these details and explanations you want to give them, and the only thing they hear and the only thing they want to hear is when can I get back out there? And no matter what you tell them, you know they're knocking like 2 weeks off of what you tell them. So let's talk about when you have an injury, and they all vary, right? Some general advice for people who are going to rush back out there. How long does it take to rehab some of this stuff, and what should be some of the mileposts I should be looking for in rehab? If I've sprained my wrist, if I'm seeing some tendonitis in my elbow, if I've got an ankle roll, before I can get back out there, because my partner's coming, he or she's bringing me to the doctor because, we got the club championship. Talk a little bit about the rehab and getting back out there, and how important it is to do that slowly and correctly.
I can jump in on the ankle portion of that. And you're right, Tom. That is the number one question. They don't want to know what's wrong. They just want to know, when am I getting back? So, you know, listen, if you're 14, you're getting back pretty fast if it's an ankle sprain. If you're 84, you may not get back as fast. There's always grades of injuries, right? You can have a primary, secondary, tertiary ankle sprain, and one will heal up faster than the other. So we will obviously determine what that injury is in the office. We'll tell you what it is, and we'll give you a guideline of how long it's going to take. What I typically do is, depending on the severity of the injury, oftentimes I will ask my patients to take, I'll just give you a ballpark figure of, give me 2 weeks. Let's say we've got an ankle sprain that's bad enough that the ankle's swollen, they are having difficulty walking on it, perhaps they even need crutches, and it just happened within the last 48 hours. So those folks, they're not going to get back to the pickleball court fast anyway. So if they can give me 2 weeks and they can come back and I can see them and reevaluate them, oftentimes at that point I can determine whether they can get back. And if I'm not sure, I will often recommend some physical therapy, because that way they can be with another professional who can determine how strong or weak their ankle is, and they can begin giving them things to do at the physical therapy location, such as a treadmill or box jumps or lateral motion. And that way you're not, because I always tell my athletes, I don't want you to make that determination as to when the ankle is ready. I want a professional to make that determination. And I don't want you to test it out for the first time on the court. I'd rather you test it out somewhere like in a physical therapy location. So that's one way that we can do to establish the question of when.
Guys,
Yeah,
you want to jump in on that?
I agree with that. Go ahead.
No, after you.
I totally agree with Mark. Going for hand, we usually use occupational hand therapists that are very helpful. Physical therapists are also great. And I say, when you're feeling better, wait a little longer and then go out there. And all the workout stuff, all the preparatory work that we talked about, all the warming up, after an injury, it's important to do that as if you're a beginner again, right? And if you haven't played in a month, go out there by yourself, do some jogging, do some lateral movements, get your tennis shoes back on, and really get ready and accentuate that warm up. I think that's the key. And I tell patients all the time, I say, you'll know when you know, right? And nobody knows your body better than you. And I think that with a reliable, patient who really wants to get back in the right way, they do a pretty good job at that. I'll add one thing to your comment, Tom. They always say, when do you want to get back? But there's a corollary to that. When can I get back? The corollary is, I have a match this weekend and they really, really, really need me. And for some reason, injuries happen all the time like that. So
big match, the biggest match of the year.
Yes. The finals. It's this weekend and I need to go, and we're sitting there like,
Dr. Stoll, jump in there.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of the same things that Dan just mentioned. It's hard to give blanket advice, right? Because I'm seeing patients that have muscle strains. I'm seeing patients that have herniated discs. I'm seeing patients that have compression fractures. And the advice for recovery from any one of those injuries is going to be different. That being said, when you're on the mend, and I hated hearing this advice, I hate giving this advice, but I think it's good advice, is let pain be your guide. And I don't mean go out there and play a match, and if it hurts, stop playing. What I mean is do the warm-ups, like Dan mentioned. You're going to need to twist and squat and lunge. You're going to need to accelerate and decelerate, like I mentioned before. And so start at square one, do some of the warm-ups that involve those activities. And if you're able to do those activities in a pain-free manner, then step it up a notch and kind of take it to the point where you're going from, let's say, start at 25% full speed or full effort, and then gradually increase 50%, 75%, and then work your way up to 100%. And I wouldn't recommend doing that all in the first setting, but try it out and do it consecutive days and get yourself back to a point where you're able to give 100% effort without having pain. And that's a good indication that you'd be able to return to the court, I think.